Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Caregiving Gen X Style. I'm Steve Mullen.
And I'm Jennifer Mullen.
According to a 2025 AARP study that we talked about a couple of episodes ago, 61% of caregivers are women. A study by MIT a few years ago put that number closer to 75. Regardless, men, like me, are in the minority when it comes to taking care of elderly loved ones. Male caregivers look at things in a different way than women, and that's what this episode is all about, the differences between the sexes and how we men can do our jobs a little better when it comes to caregiving. Now, for our female listeners, please don't turn the podcast off, yet you might learn something too, so just stick around. But first, Jennifer, how's your mom?
Mom's doing well, which I feel like is a fairly common refrain over the last several episodes, and I am okay with that. That's a good thing to be able to say. Really, the biggest thing in her world is that her next door neighbor at her apartment complex is moving. And this is a big deal. Not only are they friends and they've lived next door or back when Mom was up on the second floor apartment, basically they have lived right near each other for about 10 years. So it's a long time. Has it been that long? It has been that long. Yeah. Mom's actually been there longer, but that's how long.
This doesn't seem quite that long.
Her neighbor has lived there. So, of course, we're sad she's moving, and she's in a situation where her family has decided to move her. She's younger than Mom, but they've decided to move her because one of the daughters bought a piece of property, has a small house on it, they renovated it, and so it just financially makes sense for someone who is a little older and on a fixed income. Don't think that she's totally thrilled about moving. I think she's going to miss being in the apartment complex, and frankly, I know she's going to miss being next door to Mom. We are definitely going to miss her. Not just because we like her and we're going to miss her, but, you know, she has been an extension of our caregiving with Gagi in that if something happens, you know, I could text Sue and say, hey, can you do me a favor? Can you please just pop next door really quickly? Make sure Mom's okay. You know, she didn't answer the phone the 3 times I tried to call her, or the times when Mom has had to pull her medical alert button and the EMTs have shown up. You know, the EMTs have gotten there before we have, and Sue has been right over there. You know, making sure Mom is okay. The infamous cat incident, you know, when Mom's cat shredded her hand. I mean, Sue was over there by the time you got it. That was one where you got over there.
Right.
And so, you know, she has just always not just been a friend, but been someone who's kept an eye on Mom, and definitely selfishly going to miss that for sure. So it's really kind of the big news there. So we certainly wish Sue all the best. And I know she's still going to be over to visit Mom for sure. So, you know, from a friendship standpoint, that part's all going to be good. Like I said, selfishly, from my standpoint, I'm just a little bit disappointed not to have a reliable neighbor next door who I could call on at any moment. But that's okay. We will get through it. So, Steve, how's your mom?
She's doing fine. I got a couple of things. Number one, I have joined the dental adventures, just so everybody knows.
What do you mean joined? You've been on dental adventures for years.
This round.
Okay.
This round.
Fine.
So a week and a half ago, I had 3 teeth removed. 2 old wisdom teeth and a molar, and it's not been a good week and a half at all, but we'll move on from that. I'm starting to feel better.
Yeah, well, let's not move on from that for just a moment, though. We're going to talk about spousal caregiving.
Oh, here we go.
You were not a great patient.
I was not.
And not for the obvious reasons, because here's what I'll say. You gave fair warning the day before. You said, I'm going to be a big baby tomorrow. I was prepared for that. That, however, is not how things unfolded. You weren't a big baby, so yay you. But you, were not accepting my caregiving.
I think what it was is I didn't feel as bad as I expected to. Frankly, I expected to just be flat on the couch the entire day.
Dude.
And I could get up and do stuff for myself.
Your mouth was bleeding for a long time. You were grumpy about the gauze in your mouth. And I was trying to help with ice packs and the tea bags that they say can help stop the bleeding faster. And I'm trying to manage your pain medication and the antibiotic. And you, in general, were just a little bit grumpy about it and wanted to try to do everything yourself. Meanwhile, I'd taken the day off from work. I was here,
like I said,
ready to be a caregiver.
I felt a lot more mobile than I thought I would after all that. So I just figured, let me just get up and do stuff myself.
Yeah. Well, here was what I was hoping was going to happen post 3 teeth
I would
being
sleep
yanked
for a
out.
few hours.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what you were hoping for.
I actually didn't originally take the day off from work. I was just going to telework, and I thought, I'll just have to get up occasionally and give him some Tylenol. Oh, no.
You were hoping the baby would take a nap.
Kinda. Yep. All right.
So anyway, well, the other thing I did want to talk about, though, and this plays into this episode, I think, very well. Some time back, and this was probably toward the beginning of my caregiving journey, Mom asked me, she said, well, we need to get some more pads. And I said, oh, you mean the green pads you put down on your bed in case you have an accident? No. Oh, you mean the blue pads, the smaller ones that you put on your wheelchair? No. I said, what are you talking about? She said, pads. I said, okay. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, my God.
This went on for quite some time until I finally figured out it was the ladies' pads, whatever you call them. Feminine napkins, whatever the heck the things are called.
No, they were called feminine napkins like in the 1950s. They're called pads.
Okay, but so, this was quite the conversation, and this kind of illustrates the issues with men and caregiving, particularly when
you have been married to a woman for almost 30 years now.
It's true.
Oh, yeah.
It's true. But I was never sent out. If you sent me, I think you did send me out to buy pads once or twice.
Sure.
But you showed me the package and said, this is what I want.
Okay.
She was just saying pads.
Okay.
And so, again, this is kind of one of the problems that can come up with, when men are caregiving for their mother or a woman of some type. We don't know the terminology when it comes to this stuff. Okay. We really, really don't. And here's a tip, though, and I will tell you, I think this is why this came up. She's a little incontinent. She wears a pull-up. What they suggested she do was put one of these pads on the inside of the pull-up. So if she's an older woman, if she sneezes and a little bit comes out and she's uncomfortable, she can just swap that out easily.
Yeah,
without having to change the whole pull-up.
Exactly.
So now we call them, by the brand name. They're poise pads.
Yeah. Okay.
So that makes sense.
Alliteration too. It's kind of fun to say poise pads.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So now that's what we call it. She says, we need more poise pads. Because if she says pads, I'm going to say the green ones, the blue ones, which ones? So it would go all through that again. Again.
Okay.
So we have talked about it before in this podcast. When there are two siblings and all other things are equal, the female sibling more often than not takes the job of primary caregiver for elderly loved one. It's obviously not always true, as Jennifer and her brother can attest, because they share the duties pretty well.
And he does more than I do.
These days, yes,
because he doesn't work outside of the home and I do. So he's definitely carrying the lion's share.
And studies have shown it's usually the case.
Yeah. Usually the case that
women
are. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, the reasons for this, of course, are probably pretty obvious based on the story that you just shared, certainly. But women, are traditionally seen as the more nurturing of the two sexes. Although sometimes you call me Mother Teresa in a very sarcastic way because that is implying that I'm not nurturing, but I can be nurturing and you just wouldn't let me be nurturing. But that's a story for another day. That's a squirrel. Hi, George. How are you?
Let's go off on that squirrel. The Mother Teresa things comes. I do have seasonal allergies, and sometimes, particularly in the morning, I cough,
God.
I clear my throat, and you just look at me in a very annoyed way, and I'm like, I can't help it. I'm just very congested.
Because I am sitting outside,
and you're irritated, Mother
enjoying
Teresa.
The quiet, doing my little New York Times puzzle in the morning, or reading my book, or just trying to have quiet time, and then you come out and start hacking and coughing all over the place.
But anyway, no sympathy,
But
Mother
we
Teresa.
digress. Okay. Anyway. Typically speaking, women are seen as the more nurturing of the two sexes, and women are even these days less likely than men.
Even these days, they are.
Even these days, less likely than men to be working outside the home, which I do think is really interesting. And so they might have more schedule flexibility. So by traditional gender stereotypes, the women are just considered better at taking care of other people, like kids or parents.
And there's going to be a lot of stereotyping going on in this particular episode.
Yes.
It has been.
We're not meaning to offend
anybody.
We're not meaning to offend
anybody, but this stuff has been backed up by studies. It's real. It's true. And for one reason or another, men do sometimes get thrown into the deep end of the caregiving pool. It may be that the female sibling moved far away, or in my case, it may be that there isn't a female sibling.
There's only two boys.
So there's me and my brother. That's it.
Well, thankfully, in the modern world, men certainly have become more involved in taking care of their own children. Mm-hmm. I can't even imagine, by the way, like, I mean, you and I,
1950s
we
marriage.
were 100% partners. Yeah. And also, again, I was, building my career. You had a little more flexibility with your job. And
working from home. I was here.
You did a lot more of the stuff. So anyway, I think it's fairly typical that men are much more involved in the raising of their children. And, as a result, they learn some of the skills they'll need when it comes time to take care of their elderly parents or loved ones. Of course, many men feel like one of our listeners once said to us in an email that they are much more comfortable fixing a plumbing problem than taking care of their parents. And that was fair,
Superfan
valid,
Mark, I believe.
I think it was.
I believe it was.
And that's fair. I mean, taking care of others is just not, it just wasn't a part of his life up until now. And there's no doubt about it. When you start caregiving, you do get thrown into some uncomfortable situations.
Mm-hmm. And so let's talk about, in this episode, how can men be better caregivers? We're going to talk about some ideas that, once again, do involve some stereotypes. These tips, honestly, though, are good for women as well, I believe. Let me go ahead and do the first one. Use your strengths. So, first off, men are, again, stereotypically good problem solvers. In fact, it's a stereotype that if a person comes to a man and wants to commiserate about a problem, the man's more likely to try to solve the problem than actually sit there and listen.
That is true.
It's a problem. Sometimes you just want to hear, that sucks. We've talked about that.
Well, and the same way with your kids, too. That was a light bulb moment with our daughter many years ago. She said, I don't need you to fix it.
Right. So use this problem-solving ability to your benefit. Learn everything you can about the issues that are confronting your elderly loved one. Do your research so you know what might come next and you can plan for it.
So another stereotypical strength that men have is the ability to fix and build things. And this can definitely become useful because things like wheelchairs and other, aids of some sort have a habit of breaking down. Steve, you've had to adjust your mom's wheelchair once every few weeks, for example. And in fact, you just went through a whole...
Oh, my gosh.
That's a whole other thing, right?
Yeah.
Actually, someone came to service her chair, but really
They didn't do a very good job.
She
has an adjustable leg lift. It goes up and down, and she needed a new one because it was a little bent, and just from normal use. And he put it on there, but didn't adjust it to the height of her wheelchair, so it wouldn't go down. It just hit the floor. I don't know what on earth he was thinking. So I had to figure out how you adjust it and then adjust it because it was much easier to do that than to wait 3 or 4 days to wait for him to come back. That was a pain in the butt.
Well, but so, I mean, the point there, though, is, and again, stereotype, but with men, maybe think about the things that you can do with your hands that can help make your loved one's life better. This might be something like lowering a shelf, or maybe building a new one, or certainly adjusting the
wheelchair.
The footrest on the wheelchair.
Exactly. Yeah. And there is one huge benefit that we cannot really deny. Men tend to be bigger and physically stronger than women.
Absolutely.
That's just a fact. And this is a place where men can shine as caregivers because there are times when brute strength is needed, like when your loved one falls down and can't get back up.
Well, so that's the extreme, right? If they fall down and they need help getting up. But I will say, one thing that I have noticed more recently, I've never shied away from putting my mom in the car and taking her out for a drive or, getting her to a doctor's appointment. And I'm still comfortable doing it. But maybe not as comfortable as I used to be. I think, her mobility is declining a little bit, more. It's, sort of steadily declining. And I've definitely had the thought a couple times, like if she starts to go down, I'm not much little old Jennifer's going to be able to do. But, my brother's a little bigger than I am, taller, a little bigger. He's a man. He's, a little stronger. So, I would imagine that he doesn't feel nearly as nervous about doing something like that with her as I do. And that is just a simple fact.
And actually, just a little side note, I'm not sure this is quite a squirrel because it's more or less on topic, but I don't even remember how it came up. I was talking to my mother and we kind of were talking about the period before she moved into assisted living, before she had her back surgery. While we were waiting for the surgery, there's about a 3-week period where I lived with her 5 days a week. My brother would come in 2 days a week and give me a rest. And we were talking about this, and she said, well, you're a pretty big guy. You're pretty strong. She said, but I know it just about killed you, all those transfers. And at that point, she didn't know anything about transferring. Basically, I would grab her around the waist. She'd put her hands around my neck, and I would stand her
full body
up.
weight. Yeah.
And it wasn't full body weight. I'd say it was probably 50 to 75%, though, for sure. She was putting a little bit on that good leg. And it wasn't so much, doing that one time, no big deal. But I remember calling you, Jennifer, one evening, just utterly exhausted and telling you, well, she has to go to the bathroom so much. And every time she has to go to the bathroom,
I remember that.
It's 4 transfers.
Yeah.
Up, out of the wheelchair, onto the toilet, off the toilet, back into the wheelchair. If she's in bed.
Yeah.
Out of the bed, wheelchair
to toilet to wheelchair, and wheelchair back to bed.
By that point, I'm sweating.
Yeah.
And it is exhausting.
Yeah.
And I know, as you said, little Jennifer, I don't think you could have moved her.
Yeah. No, probably not.
I know my brother could. He's not as comfortable with this stuff, but I know he did it.
Well, and I think about back when, was that just last summer? Whenever it was that Gagi ended up with pneumonia. Mm-hmm. She was in the hospital, got the pneumonia. And she was discharged.
Yes,
and then
that was last summer, believe it or not.
Gosh, wow, man. But at her worst, and it was just a fluke of the way my brother and I were sharing the nights. I got the last night before we ultimately ended up having to call the ambulance and take her back to the hospital. So it was literally the worst night. Mm-hmm. She was 100% dead weight. We had a little bedside commode, like right next to her recliner chair where she sleeps. And I remember trying to help her, get up to get over to that. And it was...
Well, you ended up calling me.
Close to impossible. Oh, you did have to come over.
And
that is
right. I got
right.
over there, and she was a rag doll.
She was completely dead weight.
Yeah.
It's
anyway,
it's tough.
That's where being a man really comes in handy because you're more likely to be able to handle that than a woman. It's just a fact.
Yep.
So another thing, build your team. Men traditionally, stereotypically love team sports. So put together your team. We talked about this a few episodes ago. Be sure to go back and listen to that one. But think of yourself as the coach or maybe the quarterback. Build from there. You'll need help with things that you're not so great at. For example, if you're not great with finances, find someone who is. You'll definitely need a good doctor for your loved one. Go out and find a geriatrician. If you suck at cleaning, like me, you may need someone to come in once every couple of weeks and do a full cleaning on your house. Once you put your team together, though, you will be unstoppable.
Yep. It's sort of along the lines of things that I'm sure we've said this many times throughout. Like, you can't do it by yourself. You cannot do it by yourself. You do have to find other people to help you. So the other thing you have to do, in addition to building your team, is also practice to get better. So this might sound a little bit silly because it's not like catching fly balls. Speaking of teams and team sports, it's not like catching fly balls or hitting a practice dummy. This is really more of a metaphorical practice. So consider every day like you're practicing to get better at a skill or a sport. Be persistent. If something doesn't go particularly well one day, like helping your loved one change clothes, transfer to a chair, get to a doctor's appointment, whatever it is, consider that your practice and then do it better the next time. And eventually you'll master the skill.
Exactly.
You learn something even when the things don't go well. You definitely learn, and you then put that into practice for the next time you do it. And
it's a mindset, though. I think that guys have to get themselves into that. You're not going to do it perfectly, but you're practicing. And eventually you'll be really good at this stuff.
Yep, that's true.
Also, plan ahead. Men aren't really great at this, stereotypically, once again.
Shocker, said no one ever.
They're not great at taking care of things before they start to fall apart or really get messy. For example, it's a common refrain in our house that I do not see dirt the same way that Jennifer does.
You do not.
And thus, I do not feel sometimes like something needs to be cleaned, even though Jennifer does feel like it needs to be
Which
cleaned.
is why, by the way, we just try to say, let's have a schedule. Steve, please do these house chores
Yes.
once a week.
Exactly. Whether they need to be done or not.
They always need to be done. That's the point.
It's also a stereotype. Men don't feel the need to go to a doctor unless they are seriously ill or injured.
That is very true.
But with the elderly, catching something early can mean the difference between a minor medication change and a hospitalization.
Yep.
So make sure you stay ahead of these things like checkups, keeping things clean, and you will save some problems down the road.
Yeah, and
for
I mean,
sure.
even just simple, not super serious situations, but as we talked about, we kind of all forgot about dentist appointments. How important is a dentist? Pretty important, as it turns out.
Yes.
Dental health is actually, and like truly in all seriousness, dental health, you do not want to fool around with that, because something starts to go bad with your teeth, with your mouth, with your gums.
For sure.
It's not good. So that's a great example, actually.
It is.
Well, I think it's really important to point out that everyone also needs to know what their limits are. So male or female, we all have our limits, and it's important that we each know what those are. It may get to the point where the job is simply too big for you. Don't be stubborn about it. Get help, no matter what that help looks like. So it might mean transitioning your loved one to a nursing home. It might mean having a home health aide come in to do some things for you. It might just mean taking that friend or family member up on their offer to cook some meals. Again, don't be stubborn.
Don't be stubborn.
You won't get anywhere by being stubborn.
Exactly.
Yeah. The other way you could say this is, don't be a martyr.
No, I've got it. This is
Don't-
my job,
just
and
don't
no
do
one
that.
else has to be bothered with it.
Yep.
Yeah, don't do
it. And
Don't do that.
people, typically speaking, are more than happy to step in and help.
It's true. It's true. So finally, self-care is not just for women.
Nope.
It's for everybody.
Yep.
We did an entire episode on self-care. If you haven't listened to it, go back and listen to it. It sounds a little feminine, but it's not. Make sure you're taking time for yourself whenever possible. We've said it a million times that self-care can be as simple as a 5-minute walk down the block, but it can help keep you sane.
Yep. Or it's golf, or it's going to play
Or-
basketball
Yeah,
with your
I mean,
buddies, or
if
it's
you're in a
whatever it is.
situation where you're living with someone in 24-hour care, obviously you can't take 4 or 5 hours to go play golf.
Of course.
But, maybe you can pull off going to the driving range for an hour or something like that.
Yeah.
But it might, like I said, it might just be a 5-minute walk down the road to clear your head.
Whatever it is.
Whatever it is you need. So thanks to everyone for listening to this episode. I hope you women out there stuck around. And if you'd like to get in touch with us, maybe you have a question, you have a comment, please just send us your how's your moms, how's your dads. We'll read them on the show. We'd love to hear how people are doing.
Yes, please let us know.
We have a few options for how to do that. You can email us, caregivinggenxstyle@gmail.com. You can send us a text or a voicemail. Voicemails are the bomb. They're thebomb.com.
We love hearing people's voices. It just like we hope you guys are out there listening to us, and it makes you feel like you're not
if you got
alone.
to this point in the episode, you probably don't hate the sound of our voices.
Well, right. But it makes you feel like you're not doing any of this alone. There are a lot of other people in similar situations.
Yep.
That's why we like to hear from you guys, too.
And you might have your own tips.
Yeah.
That, we are not experts. We are
Nope.
just people who do this, and we want to talk about it, and, that's why we're here. But you can leave us a voicemail or send us a text, 804-723-1221. You can find us on Twitter or Blue Sky, the handle on both, at Gen X Caregiving. Please go to our Facebook page and like it. That's where we post the most. The best way to go get there is to go to the show notes in this episode, find the link, click on it. Takes you right there, no problem. We hope to hear from you soon. Have a great day.
Good night, everyone.